Ottawa.
Well, most of us probably thought we would find ourselves on the other side of the COVID-19 pandemic by now. However, Omicron, the variant, had different ideas. And throughout these difficult times, the city has had to continue making important decisions on our behalf. This show gives you an opportunity to connect with your city councillor and, of course, for them to connect with you. Welcome to Ward Updates 2022, a series of one-on-one interviews with Ottawa City Councillors. We're going to discuss a number of important issues during these discussions, issues that affect you, your family, members of your community. My guest today is George Darouze, City Councillor for Osgoode Ward. Welcome, George. And first of all, George, I'd like to take the opportunity just to ask you on a personal level, how have you been doing during these almost 2 years now throughout the pandemic?
Thank you, Derick, and I really appreciate this interview and the update to be able to reach out to our resident and community in the city. And thank you for your question. You know, it's been very difficult to be able to deliver messages and work with the community from a virtual perspective, but thanks God, we're still doing good, and thanks God, we are healthy, all of us in my house personally and in the community. We don't have major issues, and we're doing very well, and we were able to deliver and cater messages to our community. So far, so good.
Yeah, it's certainly great to hear that. How has it affected your role as a city councillor, George?
At the beginning, it was very difficult, Derick, because we were facing an unknown. No one knows what we were facing. We didn't know what was going on. We had to adjust and adapt to the new way of doing business. There were so many information were coming out, and you remember back in the pandemic around March, students were getting ready to go to March break, and all of a sudden all the COVID news hit, and it was surprised. The community they were very surprised with the pandemic, and we didn't realize how fast things were moving, and all of a sudden we go to lockdown. So for us, it was really difficult. We didn't know how we're gonna do face-to-face meeting and how we're gonna conduct business, but we still were able to. We need to have a way for us to message and keep our community engaged. So basically, we change and we adapted quick to our surrounding under the pandemic. We closed our office downtown right away. We mobiled our office and my team. Everybody started working from home like anyone else. We engaged right away with the three levels of government to get the news, and we source together at that time. I remember we were doing daily update to our community through our newsletter. So we're very lucky and fortunate we have a newsletter, goes to over 3,000 people in my community, and we were listening and getting all the update from the three levels of government, putting them all together, and at the end of the day, we were pushing update one after one. My team worked relentlessly, and we worked very hard to get and gather the information to make sure our residents getting their information from one source. And that's how was the beginning of the pandemic, and we still moving in the same speed. We do virtual meeting, we do virtual open door, we do virtual conduct business. I have a team meeting with my staff every morning and every evening, so be able to connect and share the information and put it out to the community. That's how it's been in the last few years.
George, has it been difficult to communicate within your ward to your constituents during the pandemic at all?
It was very difficult, Derick, because we had to find different ways. Rural area, lots of people, not too many people were indoors and have the technology. No one knew Zoom at that time. I came from private sector. We did use Zoom back when I was working with Bell and all that stuff. I worked from home for many years of my life before I become a councillor. But people in rural area, the internet challenges that we have, there is some people in the rural area, believe it or not, they still love that paper that they get into their hand.
Yeah,
so we were trying to be able, there is a lots of way we have to deliver messages So it was really challenging. We were depending on community association to give them some information, to reach out by email. But you know what? I gotta tell you, Canadian and the City of Ottawa residents are resilient. They learn fast, they adapt fast, and that's what makes us very strong in our community. We were helping each other. We've done wellness check on people. We have so many organizations who are helping us to go out and check on small businesses. And I went to the senior home myself with Ross through other program. So we were able to print some paper and take some information for them once a week because it was very people scared to take some communication and paper at that time from they don't want the COVID transition through. It was a lot unknown at the beginning, Derek, but you know what? We're managing, and thanks God that so we're here today. And look, we're doing a virtual update. If you thought about that 2 years back, we'll never see that we're gonna have this, right? So look, there is a when there is a will, there is a way.
Your ward is comprised of a lot of beautiful small villages, and then sort of outside of those villages, the ward is dotted with farms and agriculture land and country estates and that sort of thing. So I wanted to touch on the state of rural broadband in your ward. I know that you've worked with the mayor and other councillors that have rural wards. I believe ExploreNet had sent an application to the Universal Broadband Fund. Where does that stand? Do you have any update on that?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Derek. We were very lucky a little bit before the pandemic when the government was concentrating on the broadband. We were giving a letter of support to the multiple, to Rogers. I work very closely with the Roger network with Bell, and we were giving them letter of support to do the applications. So when the pandemic hit, those applications, I guess, they got speed up through multiple other network that we were working with, and they improved the signal. And Bell and Roger has significant work in my ward. We've done a lots of fiber, a lots of fiber optic. So it was very helpful, and we're very lucky with the expansion, especially right now, happening still in our community.
The pandemic is a huge hit on revenues, right, for the city, and in many different ways. Transportation being a big one. How do you go about making up for some of those revenue shortfalls? What have you and other councillors discussed about how we can move ahead and make up for those shortfalls? Because when you look at a 3% tax hike, property tax hike, I know I'm a property owner, so I'm certainly happy to see it stay at 3% and in that range. But I wonder if we're putting off the inevitable, George, down the road where we're going to have to increase them significantly to make up for these shortfalls. So can you speak on that a little bit for us?
Yeah, for sure. You know what? And we've been very lucky in the last 2-3 years. As much as the city cannot go into deficit, and the province has been very good on supporting our initiative and giving us some money to making sure to offset that shortfall. But eventually, it's going to probably catch up with us in year to come. But from a road perspective and from the spending, for us, is very important to keep tax affordable. We need to make sure our tax will not have a major increase like in other municipality. We can't see 6, 7, 8%. We need to find a way within our means to be able to build our infrastructures and spend the money wisely. We have shortfall in transportation in OC Transpo. You have a shortfall in the road. We have shortfall with the pandemic right now. Ottawa Public Health has been their budget. It's tremendously tripled, if not being 4 times now, with all the little centers that we have open and for the vaccination. But the province so far has been very good in giving us the money. And I'm hoping, and this is one challenge that this council is going to carry into the next 4 or 5 years, because the shortfall is not going to show today. It's going to show in 2-3 years down the road. And we're hoping 2-3% increase. First of all, we cannot not increase. Everything in life, it's going up. Grocery bills, I don't have to get into other politics, but we go to the grocery, myself and you every day. We see the prices of the milk, we see the price of water. The inflation is going high. So we have to be very careful, and we have to spend money within our means.
Transportation is an interesting issue in a ward such as yourself, right? You're in a rural ward. So how do you feel about the public transportation options available in your ward at the moment? Can all residents find affordable public transportation even in your ward? What would you like to see? What are you hearing from constituents?
So for me, is I'm outside the OC Transpo hub, so uh, uh, we don't have any public transportation.
Yeah.
But my community are very, very excited right now because the LRT stage 2 for Bose will come into right at the edge of my ward in Bose, right on Boseville and Limebank. So that's gonna help a lot of that's Earl Armstrong on Boseville. That's gonna help a lot. We're gonna have a major park and ride, and then that's gonna probably help my resident to be able to buy a cycle down to the station, or shorter drive for them to park at Boseville and Earl Armstrong, jump on the LRT and take a public transportation. For my ward in the rural area, all we depend on road. I know it's
Right. Yeah.
difficult to say, but road, and the mayor always, every time I have a priority meeting with him, he always says, "George, you're the king of asphalt. All what you ask me is for asphalt," and it's the fact.
Well, what else are you going to ask for?
We have major roadway. Since I get elected till today, we paved over 252 kilometers in my community alone, and our Osgoode ward has 600 kilometer over 600 kilometer of roadway and almost 200 kilometer of gravel road. So our geographically, we have a challenges, and those roads we inherited, they were all uh, unsafe for the resident to drive on. I have major roadway, like you have Mitch Owens River Road, Snake Island, and I'm sure you've heard in the news in the past 5, 6, 7 years, we've been having accident, and we have a lots of potholes and things. So that take a lots of money and infrastructure. And this year alone, we've done Highway 31 all the way from Snake Island down to Mitch Owens. We're doing intersection improvement on Bank and Rideau, on Mitch Owens Mitch Owens and Bank. This is a major $27 million of infrastructure. So all what we need really we need a lot of money for us to fix rural road, and we've been doing a lot of those improvement in the last 7 years.
Oh, yeah, you mentioned LRT coming to your ward, a rural community, which is going to be extremely beneficial. We look at the 2.5% fare increase, and a lot of people look at that as, not a great way to encourage people to get back to public transportation. And I know there are costs involved here. I know there are revenue shortfalls, but you just look at everything that we've gone through with light rail and now the pandemic, and people have fallen into different habits, and those habits are difficult to get out of, right? People are suddenly used to driving their own vehicles. Do you think we should have offered different kinds of incentives? Like what other ways can we encourage people to come back to the public transit system, George?
This is a very good topic, to be honest with you, Derek. And we ask this question. We talk collectively with my councillor colleague all the time about it. But if you look at the public transportation right now, yes, we are in a decrease of ridership. But when hoping and the pandemic is behind us, and real life, we go back to real normal life, we're hoping to do some incentive to get the people back into the public transportation, because we're going to go back to the normal life. People need transportation. With LRT accessible at the edge of rural area in the rural community, I think a lot of people will take advantage of it, especially the Ottawa resident. They love to exercise. So we're doing those pathway. We're building those multi-use link between the villages and the communities to give them easy access to the LRT station. Those are the incentive that we're building. So they go half an hour before they get to their office. They cycle for 15, 20 minutes, or depends on the distance where they live. They can park their bikes and jump on LRT and go down to work, and vice versa back in the evening. So that we're gonna see, we need to see some incentive, and if we build those accessible pathways and throughout the community to be able for them to get to that station, I think build it, they'll use it, and that's what I'm always using it. From an affordability standpoint, everything is going, and cost of living is going higher. These We have expenses we have to spend, and everything we do in the city is cost recovery, and we're gonna have a long many multiple kilometers in the city from LRT station down to the downtown. So you're going to have accessibility to the airport. So I think people will find it if it's taking them to their work, taking them to university, to the airport. I think some people will adapt to that system and they'll use it. I'm hoping I'm right.
Yeah, Councillor Darouze, when we look at this term of council, we're moving closer and closer to an election in 2022. What are some of your goals for this final term in council until the next election?
Yeah, thanks. That's a good question, and I have a lots of projects on the go, and then again, I concentrate on the transportation network. We have we have recreational centers need to be upgraded. So we've done major upgrade for Osgoode and Arena last year, and I'm hoping this year we got some good grant. We're gonna put a Wi-Fi in one in Osgoode and one in Metcalf, and we talk about broadband. So we're trying to expand the broadband as much as we can to the community. We have a major widening coming from Bank Street. We're working, myself and Councillor Meehan, on the north side of my ward to making sure that extension happen on time, and making sure to deliver also a transportation hub to both community, because we're adjacent and we're neighboring to each other. I also have a major road upgrade I want to finish. There is a lots of them in the highlight for budget 2022. I have Grace Creek is on also on the on the list to be done this year. We have other. We're going to finish Bank Street water main and finish the intersection on Rideau and Mitch Owens. Those are major infrastructure we're trying to make sure. I wanted them to complete before 2022 is over, and making sure we deliver all the roadway that we've been highlighting to fix for this year.
We've seen a lot of people, because they're working from home, actually moving out of, center town and looking at moving into those rural areas. Have you seen a population growth at all during the pandemic, George, in your ward?
Derick, for sure. You can't even find a lot right now in the Greeley area, in Manatic, and in Osgoode or in Metcalf. We have shortage of land for to be built. Our subdivision, I know we have a particular subdivision. The minute the developer put them out, they've been sold. We have lots in Rideau Forest. It's been sold and haven't even registered yet. So we do have a lots of growth happening in my area, but we don't have enough land. We don't have enough a lot for the people to come out and build. But you know what? They're doing as much as they can and the best they can. But I've seen a lot of changes, prices going high as much as like anywhere in the city. And I've seen new people coming from different area from Toronto. And also there is some people also moving from the downtown core coming up to the rural area. So we're seeing a lot of movement, the dynamic and the demographic changing. And because people working from home now also, Derick, it's not become, it used to be, we used to call it the bedroom community. If you look
Right.
at Greeley and all, it's not anymore, because people working from home, they're more at home. They're injecting more money where they're living. So our businesses in rural area are growing, and we have more people now going visiting the food land or the tire store or that, because before they were busy, they were driving downtown communicating, and now they're sitting at working from home. So they are using that local small business that they have around them in the area. So lots of changes in the rural area, and I'm very happy that we have that funding from the city from traffic perspective for to do safety traffic calming measure, and we've been really using this very. It's very helpful in our rural area.
Yeah, in your ward, I think we've seen, some of the complaints are, speeding and this sort of thing in communities where you're starting to, as you just said, right, you're seeing a population growth, and so you're seeing more traffic, and you're losing a bit of that rural lifestyle that people have become accustomed to. So I imagine that's one of the things why you've seen more traffic calming is because your constituents have approached you and said, you know what, with more people coming into our neighborhoods, we need to put these safety measures in place.
Yeah, and it's well used, Eric. We've been using them very well. Like I have one of the largest fleet of in my ward from spending money on a traffic calming measure to speedboard. I have lots of speedboard everywhere you drive in my community. They do help. Of course, we need some more enforcement, and we're working together collectively with OPS. But in our we've done a lots of gateway in our communities, so making sure our subdivision speed is all consistent 40 kilometer, and the province allows us to do that last couple of years. So we've been using those dollars well in our community, and the residents are happy, and they're very appreciative of that. But yes, it is the dynamic and demographic also is changing. We have
Mm-hmm.
people moving from area to our rural community, and they don't realize we have ATVs, we have snowmobiles, we have dirt bikes.
Yeah.
They're not accustomed to that lifestyle, and try to, instead of put a divide, try to educate. So we've been very actively working with our community association on those messages. Be kind, work together, and yes, a lot. Rural lifestyle is different than suburban and urban, and all of a sudden people come to rural. What do you mean there is golf cart on the road? There is dirt bikes there.
Yeah, it's
So
true, right? And you have to be prepared that there's going to be, different noises, and so as you mentioned, ATVs and snowmobiling, and a lot of those outdoor recreational activities people enjoy. And I was going to ask you about that because you have to find a balance, right, in rural areas where you want to keep that rural feel and lifestyle, but you're also seeing developments come in, and those developments want to be close to amenities, right? That they, as you just described, that you see in the city, and in and around Ottawa, where you have your local grocery stores and walking distances. So how do you find a balance between all of those things, George, and still keep that rural community feel intact?
yeah, it is very difficult, Derek. I'm not gonna lie to you,
Mm-hmm.
because it's educational, and we're very patient with our with the complaint or the feedback it gets from the resident. We try to kind of explain to them or talk to them a little bit about the environment. Look at your surrounding. Be kind to your neighbor. And we've done more public engagement than ever lately, and we will be working very closely with community association. Hopefully, in the town hall coming now, we're seeing all the community association doing their AGM virtually. So we're trying to engage with them. We try to educate with people about when we receive an email about the rural lifestyle, and we also tell the rural resident they have to also be kind to the people that they're coming to our area and community. But it's hard at the beginning, but when they're getting used to the dynamic and seeing how the community is coming together collectively for when there is an issue or where there is uh, when there is a problems, it's you'll find the balance itself, and it's been working very well. I'm hopefully that with our education program that we're going to put out and educate the resident, hopefully that will find a piece. You always find a balance between, I used to tell the resident back, instead of calling on your neighbor, make a piece of pie or take a pie from the farmer market, knock on your neighbor's door, say, listen, I'm sorry, like your light is bugging me. It's your light
Right.
at night is aiming at my house. Can you please turn it down? This is a pie. Actually, we buy it from the farmer market. There is one in Metcalf. Come visit. Like I find people that
Yeah.
there's so many keyboard warrior right now, And my message to our resident, to the community, have that face-to-face conversation. Talk to your neighbor, knowing who's living beside you. And you know what? The pies are not very expensive. Maybe with the inflation, it's very expensive now. But wait, for some, it will be maybe cheaper.
Well, it's worth it to bridge those, those divides that you have, and to have conversations that, yeah, as you said, can be difficult at times, but it's certainly better than calling on neighbors. And I think people would be surprised at the reaction that they get. George, on that, conflict, I mentioned conflict is, there's been a great divide on city council over the past, couple of years. We have some new faces coming in. Of course, we're going to have some new faces coming in. We have a new mayor coming in. What do you think needs to happen on the leadership level of the new mayor coming in, and how can they go about helping bridge some of that divide?
You know what? This is a reason of right now. The new mayor have a lot of work ahead of him. So I will. Mayor Watson did a very good job, because the city of Ottawa. I tell this to my resident all the time. The city of Ottawa is unique. It's geographically is major. We have suburban, urban, and rural. We've been just talking about that. And every councillors have a different issue in our community, in our city. So we have 23 wards. We're gonna have 25, but every ward have a different challenges. That leadership, the new mayor need to be able to sit down with all those councillors, finding out their issues and working with each individual councillor on the problem that they're having. Because when we all get elected, we all have promises to our community, but we all have different issues. Like in Ottawa, in the city of, in the rural area, we don't have problem with OC Transport or with the LRT, but we do contribute to it. But we need to be vigilant, and we need to understand, when you get elected as city council, you got two hats to wear. You have your community hat that you gotta, of course, you have to represent your resident and communities, but also you need to look at the big picture. You're part of the big table. You're part of the city of Ottawa, so you need to make decision for everyone who live in the city of Ottawa. Because my kids could be living downtown, my kids could be going to Ottawa University or Carleton University. So this is a city of ours. We need to look at it. The leadership has to look at the city as one level of for everyone who live in the city of Ottawa. You need to look at it from a good scope, and you can't cut and pieces. It has to be really level and balanced in the table between urban, suburban, and rural. And that's where I find, this is where sometimes I find, but I also remind city councilors, they should be elected and coming and serve as city councilors. If you want to be an MP or MPP and you want to take some other level of government, a challenge to bring it to the table, maybe you should reconsider where you want to run.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. George, really appreciate your time today. Thanks so much for joining us. This has been another in the series of our Ward 2022 updates.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
We're creating space for change.
Progress.
Equity. Reform.
This is a call out, a shout out, a reach out.
To help small businesses, charities, and organizations that support equity deserving groups.
Let's promote progress by promoting your brand. We're all in.
Dedicating our production resources and media platforms
to shine a light on your